Ford made a huge splash with the 5th generation Ford Expedition by bringing in the Tremor nameplate. That was one of the first SUVs that we got to see for this model year, and I have to say, it set the tone and bar very high. But in today's video, we're going to go on the other side of the spectrum and trims for 2025 with the Active. Now, the Active is the base model. However, from the exterior, you wouldn't even know. In today's video, we're going to check out what the Active has to give us. We're going to check out the exterior, the interior, take it out for a quick test drive, and see why, if you're looking at buying a full-sized SUV with a nice comfortable third row and also an SUV that is going to be fun to drive, then maybe taking a look at the 2025 Ford Expedition might be a great decision. Now, before we get in this video, I want to give a huge shout and thank you to Acton Ford in Acton, Massachusetts for letting come down here to check out the Ford Expedition once again. Their link will be in the description below, so you can check out their extensive Ford inventory. So as always, let's begin with that pricing. For the 2025 Ford Expedition Active we have today, you're looking at a starting cost of just over $65,000. However, we have an optional package, the 202A package, getting us over 70 grand. Now, I know some of you are going to be saying in the comments, it's over $70,000 for an Expedition and a base trim. I'll go higher up in the trim levels for that. Well, pump the brakes, because with a 202A package, you're going to receive a lot of value, and I think a lot of features that will make this most certainly worth it over 70 grand. Now, with this being a base trim, it is not going to receive the same aggressive design that you are going to find on, say, a Tremor. But that's perfectly okay, because this is still one good-looking SUV. Like we talked about with that Tremor, Ford dropped the rounder front fascia for this generation, giving you more of a squared-off body line and front fascia overall. Kind of remind me of what you have with the Chevrolet Tahoe and GMC Yukon, which I don't think is a bad thing at all. Having the squared off body lines has become quite trendy in this market. Up front, you are going to receive LED headlights and LED daytime running lights. Unfortunately, you don't have that light bar that runs the length of the front fascia, but hey, you can't have it all for a base trim. I also do like the grille design that we have here for this model, and there is some gloss black trim that kind of blends in with the color that we have here for our vehicle today. For the lower portion of the front bumper, you're going to have some plastic cladding here, so that way you can take on the elements if you are going off-road. Now, unfortunately, no fog lights. That is not available here for the Expedition Active, although one thing I do like, though, is that you are going to have some functional side air curtains here. You can barely tell from this angle, but that will help out with the overall airflow for this model. Then as you make your way over to the side profile, there are two features here that I want to point out, because this is where the 202A package is going to make its first appearance for the exterior. So our model is sitting on 20-inch alloy wheels, which is a slight upgrade of what you are going to find on a base Active. Now, I know what you're going to be saying, though. 20-inch wheels for an SUV of this size, ride quality will most certainly be diminished. Well, we're going to find out later on during that test drive, but I will say the 20s gives the Active more of an upscale appearance here. Best of all, too, and I want to point this out, no cladding for the wheel arches. Very nice. Now, you are going to have gloss black side mirror caps with turn signal indicators. They're also power folding, too. Again, nice little luxury touch there for the exterior. Now, of course, with this being a large SUV, you are going to have nice running boards here, so that way you will have easy access when you are entering this vehicle. Now, one thing I do want to point out, though, is the chrome accents that outline the bottom portion of the windows. I am glad that Ford didn't slap on chrome here for the base trim. Instead, nice mixture of that chrome accent, but also some gloss black trim as well. Then as you make your way around to the back, you're going to have the LED taillights once again here. And one thing I want to point out, because we are going to see a lot more of this in the automotive industry, is that you have this window being a bit more angular with a C-pillar. That's becoming very trendy now in the automotive industry. I really like it. Yes, it does take some styling elements from EVs out there, but I think it is a nice touch for the Expedition. Then as you make your way to the lower portion of the rear bumper, you're going to have that one visible exhaust outlet. But the big talking point, though, is going to be your towing capabilities here. Now, with the Expedition, if you go with the optional packages, of course, you will have a towing capacity of 9,600 pounds. That is right. So you are going to have the ability to tow a small boat, RV, you can go off-road, you can go cross-country. That's what makes this particular generation Expedition so much better than its predecessor, and also gives you that versatility that a lot of you are demanding right now in the United States. Now, while we're taking a look at the rear fascia, might as well check out the cargo area for the Expedition Active. And as expected, you are going to receive a power liftgate, but it gets even better. For this generation, you have a split tailgate. And why is this important? Well, if you're like me and you have camera gear or anything else of importance, you now have a workbench. So if I want to access a camera that's in this bag, I can do so, set it up, and then I can be on my way. That is so convenient and great to see. Now behind the third row seats, you're looking at right on 23 cubic feet of room, which, as you guys know, I like seeing more than 20 cubic feet because I have all my camera gear back here. That's 3 bags of camera gear, a gimbal box. My tripod is behind me, but a lot of room where if you are going on a grocery run, maybe you're going on a quick weekend getaway, you can store all your bags back here, all your luggage, and still have your kids in the third row. That is huge. A lot of flexibility here for the Expedition, even without lowering those third row seats. Now on the right side, you are going to notice 2 USB-C inputs, a 12-volt outlet, and then a 3-pronged outlet as well. Then on the left side, here you have your button that turns on those lights on the tailgate, which gives you better visibility at night. But then also you can conveniently lower the second and third row from here. So that way you're spending more time loading up this vehicle with all your gear rather than manually lowering the third and second row of seats. Now when the third row seats are folded, you're looking at right on 70 cubic feet of room. Gives you a lot of practicality here. If you're only using the Expedition for its 2 rows, you're going to have tons of space for all your camping gear, skiing and snowboarding gear, just a lot of flexibility overall. Then with the second row seats folded, you're looking at right on 108.5 cubic feet of room. That is huge, right? You're looking for an SUV that is built for you and your family. This is going to be the way to go. Although this isn't the best from Ford. You can go with the Max for more practicality, more interior space, but I think what we have here for this Expedition is more than enough and more than adequate. Then for those of you wondering, beneath the SUV you are going to have that spare tire, so if you encounter a flat on those road trips or travels, you can fix that and be back on the road. Now powering our Ford Expedition we have today is going to be a 3.5 liter twin turbocharged V6 engine, producing 400 horsepower and 480 pound-feet of torque. It is paired with a 10-speed automatic transmission. We also have the intelligent 4-wheel drive system for better year-round capability and versatility. And speaking of versatility, we are going to have a ground clearance of 8.7 inches. So if you're doing some light off-roading, this shouldn't be too much of an issue at all. You'll be able to get to your destination. But for those of you looking for the max output of power, looking for that off-road capability with the off-road tuned suspension, all-terrain tires, better ground clearance, going with the Tremor would be the better choice, but that comes in over 80 grand, a very hefty price tag for sure. Now, as we dive into what this model is giving us performance-wise, we have to talk about that fuel economy though. You're looking at right on 15 miles per gallon in the city and 22 miles per gallon on the highway for a combined average of 18 miles per gallon. But this is a body-on-frame SUV, so I wouldn't worry too much about that because every other manufacturer in this market is most likely going to be a gas guzzler. Hopping inside the Ford Expedition Active, we gotta dive into that 202A package, which we kind of glossed over for the exterior because you got the carbonized gray wheels that are also 20s, and then you have power folding side mirror caps. But the interior though, that's where this package is most certainly worth the price of admission, because you're looking at spending close to $70,000 to begin with, but over $70,000 you are getting a very well equipped model, and I think the Active might be the way to go if you're looking for a full-sized SUV with 3 rows. So let's dive right into this package. So for $4,215 you're going to receive heated front seats with ActiveX seating material, also a heated steering wheel with a power tilt and telescopic steering column with memory. That is huge if you have more than one driver in the family. A universal garage door opener, wireless charging pad, also the panoramic Vista moonroof, which brings in a lot of natural light to the interior. Those are the big ones here for the interior, because we're kind of glossing over all the smaller details like the wireless phone charging pad, but you're also going to have the Ford Copilot 360 Active 2.0 if you're really into safety right now for an SUV and you have a larger family. But this model is very well equipped, which is why I think the Active is the way to go, but that's just my take. Unless you're someone who wants to go off-road, then the Tremor would be the better choice, although that comes in over 80 grand. Now, as you transition to the rest of the interior, let's begin with these seats. They're plush, they're comfortable, and they fit an SUV coming in at just over 70 grand. Bolstering isn't going to be overly aggressive. This is not going to be a sports crossover or sports SUV, but for a body-on-frame SUV, I think they're more than adequate for longer road trips and weekday commutes. As you take a look at the dashboard layout, let's begin with the steering wheel. It is yoke-shaped, but don't knock it until you try it. Even though you don't get aggressive 10 and 2 or firm 9 and 3 grips, it will feel really nice in the hands. Also, it suits an SUV like this because because it is large and you're going to need that maneuverability, and this steering wheel is actually going to be a nice addition for this generation. Now you are going to notice some touch sensitive icons on your steering wheel. On the right side, that will adjust your steering column itself, so that way if it's too low or too high, you can adjust that. And also you can see that full digital gauge cluster in front of you. The right side also adjusts the radio volume as well, so really cool to see there. Then on the left side, this will adjust your lane centering, but also your adaptive cruise control settings. So very straightforward. This is not going to be too in-depth or too difficult to get used to. Now in front of you, very clean design here. You can also customize this screen to your liking through the infotainment system. We'll talk about that very briefly in a minute. We currently have the onboard navigation system to the far right, then the fuel economy statistics in the center, and then we have our lane centering, and of course your traffic sign recognition and digital speedometer. But very cleanly laid out here, very simple, and I think the resolution is really good as well. Then as we transition to the infotainment system, you are going to have your Google-based software here with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility, obviously onboard navigation through Google Maps. The one reason why I would say maybe the Active isn't the best choice is that you're not going to get a great sound system, but that is one sacrifice by going with the base trim. So if you want better audio, go higher up in the trim levels for 2025. Now, as you have seen so many times with Android-based software, you are going to have your touch-sensitive icons at the bottom of the screen for your dual-zone climate control up front, AC, front and rear defrosters, fan speed, and fan direction. Also your 3-level heated seats and heated steering wheel. That is all within arm's reach. Now I know a lot of people are looking for physical buttons right now, but that just isn't going to be the case here for the Expedition. Now on the left side of the screen will be quick access icons for your home screen, your vehicle settings. So from here you can scroll through a number of different things, such as your driver memory, auto vehicle hold, lighting, brightness, rear climate lock, valet mode, vehicle status, and settings. Also, you can open and close that tailgate from the infotainment system as well, which is really cool. Beneath that will be all your widgets here for your Google Maps, Google Play Store, Google Assistant, but then also Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, your towing, hotspot, games. It's all right here. I think probably the coolest thing for me, at least, is the YouTube tab. So you can watch your favorite YouTube videos from this screen if you are stationary. Then lastly, at the bottom will be the menu that adjusts your digital gauge cluster in front of you. So like I said before, we had the fuel economy statistics already highlighted here, but you can have your gauges, media, off-road status, tire pressure monitoring system, towing status, trailer trip, and then also trip 1, trip 2, and weather. So whatever you want to have displayed there, you can do so very easily and within arm's reach. Now in placing the Expedition in reverse, even for an Active, you are going to receive a rear backup camera with trajectory, also a top view as well, giving you a bird's eye view. So that way when you are parking in a tight spot or parking on the city streets, you're not bumping into the cars behind you or in front of you. Also, you will have other camera angles to work with for that rear backup camera, such as a 180-degree view, and you are going to have front and rear parking sensors as well. So a lot of safety here with the Expedition Active. Then continuing on, you're going to notice your gear selector here in that dial layout. So common in the Ford products. You're also going to have a physical dial for the volume, and then next to that will be a row of buttons for your auto start stop, park assist features, your hazards, camera systems, your traction control on and off, and then your hill descent control. Now, as we take a look at the center console, before we even dive into what we have here features-wise, you're going to notice 2 buttons. You can move it forwards and backwards, and when you move it all the way backwards, this opens up a cargo area where you can probably store a couple smaller bags, maybe even some electronics like a laptop, iPhone, or iPad. It keeps it out of sight, so if you are leaving this vehicle unattended for a while, you don't have to worry about people peeking in and stealing what you have. Now, then when you put it back to its normal setting here, you are going to have your wireless phone charging pad to go along with a USB-C and USB-A outlet. You have your Pro trailering button here as well. Then 2 cup holders. Then for the standard storage compartment itself, extremely deep. So a lot of practicality here in the Expedition. You can easily store a couple water bottles, smaller items if you are entertaining kids in the second row. And you can also store, of course, smaller gizmos and gadgets and smartphones and everything else under the sun here. Then lastly, to round out the front seating area, like I mentioned before, you are going to receive that panoramic vista moonroof, which brings in a lot of natural light to the interior. Then for passengers in the second row, we have a rare sighting here, because not all Expeditions come equipped with bench seats for the second row. Now this is about a $600 option, so keep that in mind, but caption shares would be the ideal choice if you're trying to impress your passengers in the second row. Now, these seats do have a 40-20-40 split, if you are someone focusing on that and the overall practicality for this generation. Now, for passengers in the second row, they're going to get close to 41.5 inches of legroom, which is more than enough here. Yes, it's not going to be class leading compared to some other rivals out there, but plenty of space where you can just relax and enjoy the driving experience. And I think I'm going to do that right now, in fact. But seriously though, what we have here with the Ford Expedition is an SUV that is going to be very flexible, where you can have smaller kids in the second row or even in the third row, but you're also going to have an SUV that you can have taller passengers sit in this vehicle as well, and they're going to be very comfortable. Now, with the bench seats, this is my first time taking a look at an Expedition with this configuration. They're actually very comfortable, and the bolstering is pretty impressive here. So I think a lot of you are going to enjoy this particular model, and of course with the 202A package. Now, also back here, you will have climate control, and those dials will be found on the center console in front of you. There will be 2 cup holders as well. You can also adjust the fan speed and fan direction, which is great to see. Now, you will have a 3-pronged outlet back here. To round out the second row seating area, let's talk about that headroom too. Also, we can turn on the lights there to give us some extra brightness. I don't think taller passengers will have to worry about that at all here. You have a higher roof line, and overall this vehicle has a copious amounts of room, not only shoulder room wise, but legroom, and I think headroom is more than adequate. And finally, for the third row, for one, you get 36 inches of legroom, but 2, you can recline these seats. That is right, by about maybe 5 to 10 degrees. This gives you more headroom, but also better relaxation if you are stuck sitting in the bleachers. This is one thing I do like about the Expedition for 2025. They're prioritizing everyone inside this vehicle. Now, at 36 inches of legroom, I think you can try squeezing in average sized adults. Smaller kids can sit back here very comfortably as well. So Ford didn't cut corners for the third row. I'm glad to see it. Now, you're not going to have climate control though, unfortunately, but that's to be expected for a base trim, but there are vents here up top on the headliner. Now, you are going to have cup holders on both sides of the third row, and 2 USB-C inputs as well on both sides. So if you have kids back here on their smartphones or tablets, they'll be able to charge them up and stay entertained. As I've been saying throughout this entire review, the Expedition we have today is properly spec'd. With the 202A package, it provides a lot of value, gives you the Active XC material, the full panoramic moonroof, full digital gauge cluster, nice infotainment system. It feels luxury-like for a base trim, which is why I think this is the way to go. However, with that being said, for the on-road driving experience, there's a few things I want to take note of here. One, the suspension is tuned very softly. This is reflective of a lot of large SUVs that are body on frame. The Tremor I had featured a couple of months ago gave me a false perception of what this model can do and what it offers across all trims. Now, with the Active, you don't get the max output of power. 400 horsepower, 480 pound-feet of torque. Whereas the Tremor I had featured was 440 and 510. And it doesn't sound like a massive difference in regards to power, but there was a lot more get up and go with the Tremor than the Active I'm featuring today. This is very laid back, very comfortable, very, very family friendly. This isn't going to be as adventurous. This is solely for on-road driving and for large families that are quite active throughout the year, and that is perfectly fine. With this twin turbocharged V6, it's actually quite quiet. It's not making a lot of noise. The interior insulation is top notch. The 20-inch alloy wheels don't create that much road noise. In fact, with the all-terrain tires that I had with the Tremor, there was most certainly a lot more on-road noise. But what we have here, though, I think is the right specification. This is perfect for a lot of buyers in this market that are not looking to go all out and spend over 80 or 90 grand. Because you can go very far with this model with a King Ranch. But the Active, I think, is giving you just enough where you're not going to be demanding or begging for more. As we transition to the maneuverability and handling for this model, we're on a small road here, a small back road. And yet, the Expedition drives a lot smaller than it looks. Now, it's not going to be as nimble or as athletic as an Explorer, especially an Explorer ST. But it is going to be an SUV that you can hop into when you're trading in your Explorer, and there's no learning curve. And a lot of that is helped out by this steering column and this steering wheel. Yes, it's yoke-shaped, but it works. For an SUV as long and as wide as it is, it handles the corners quite well. Yes, you feel the weight transfer. Yes, you feel the body roll. This is not going to be a sports crossover. But you can move it around. When you're on those winding back roads, maybe you're going to go leaf peeping this year and you want to check out the nice fall foliage. You can do so, and you can be on those winding back roads, and you can kind of hustle this SUV. And I think because of that, this is going to be a very fun SUV, despite the fact with its predecessors, it would solely be one of those large vehicles for a growing family or for the typical American. For the 5th generation, though, this is an SUV that isn't going to be one-dimensional. Yes, it is luxurious. Yes, it's going to be comfortable and large. But it's also an SUV that is rather exhilarating for what it is. And that, to me, is what makes this particular generation, I think, a great choice in this market. Sure, you don't have a V8, but the twin-turbo V6 most certainly does the job. And best of all, you have an SUV on the lower end that feels very well equipped and luxury-like, where you don't have to go higher up in the trim levels. Now, one thing I didn't point out here with the Expedition for the full digital gauge cluster is that when you activate your turn signals, you get some nice side views as well. So that way you're not scraping those wheels, and also gives you better visibility since this vehicle is so large. Now, speaking of visibility though, you are going to have a nice panoramic view. A-pillars are somewhat aggressive, so you might have some blind spots here and there when you are approaching intersections or red lights. Taking a look at your side mirrors, they are decently sized. I can see what's my blind spots and the lane next to me. And then looking out back, nice clear view there, even with the headrests in the way. Now, as we enter this corner here, gonna go on throttle. On the brakes, nice and strong. Into the corners, yep. You feel that weight transfer. Very nice though, very nice. The Tremor just felt a bit more sporty. And with the all-terrain tires, I think it was a bit more engaging too. But we'll do one acceleration here before we wrap up this test drive and see what the Expedition Active can provide us. Impressive. The 10-speed automatic shifts very smoothly, in fact. Now, for some Fords out there, the 10-speed is not a great application. It's not a great transmission for some of the vehicles in the lineup. The Expedition, I think it does a pretty good job. Even on the downshifts, very smooth, very snappy gear shifts. But getting back to the ride quality, it's smooth, it's comfortable. It's kind of a polar opposite experience compared to the Tremor. And the Tremor has the off-road tuned suspension, so that alone will give you more of that truck-like feel. But also the higher ground clearance, the all-terrain tires, those all play a factor into the overall driving experience. But what we have here with the Active, this is set up perfectly for a lot of growing families. And I think this is the way to go. Yeah, you're going to have better features on higher trims. Yeah, you're going to have a cooler look for the exterior. But if you're someone who is ready to upgrade from your Explorer and you need to go in the Expedition direction, I think the Active delivers in many ways that will most certainly appease a lot of you in this market at around $70,000. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this quick review for the 2025 Ford Expedition Active. If you did, please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more. And I will see you guys next time.